balanced out 1. And you'll notice that there's no lights on here. If I turn the phantom power on, there it's lit. So all your channels have phantom power if you turn the phantom power on.
And and what are the disadvantages of having the phantom power on?
Really, well, there's really only 2 disadvantages. One is you'll get a big peak if you now unplug something with the phantom power on if the gain's up. And that includes your monitors. So you have to watch that. I don't know.
And would you only use the phantom power when necessary? You wouldn't keep it on as a matter of course?
Use it when necessary.
Okay. Yeah, that's good to know.
And you can see the green light there.
So every channel now has phantom power?
Correct.
Okay.
Because if I just disconnected this one and went here, it's lit also.
So I had a situation at an open mic where a guy had like no output, and I had everything turned up, the gain and the board and everything, and you could barely hear him. But then the next person who came up, it was like a shock to the ears.
Yeah, you have to watch that. With open mics and when you're changing bands, like I used to do a lot of festivals, so there were no sound checks and we had a band on for half an hour, 15 minutes between bands, and then the next band would go on for half an hour.
Story of my life.
And so what I would do was for each band, I would say, okay, well, once I knew what was going to go into each input, I'd set the gains where I thought they needed to be. So if one guy's done and he needed a lot of gain, the next guy, if this is going to be a guitar, for instance, I would start at 50%. 12 o'clock.
Mm-hmm.
And then use my pre-fader listen to see what's going on when that guy plays and have him play loud. Set your gain accordingly, and then go on to the next channel and do the same for whatever sources you have.
So is there a difference in how you would set the gain for microphones and the difference how you'd set the gains for an instrument like a guitar? I noticed you had said before that on the microphones you start at 60 or 70%.
Yeah.
And with the guitars...
Between 2 o'clock and 3 o'clock, generally speaking.
Yeah.
Unless it's a condenser mic, and then you start at about 12 o'clock because they tend to have a hotter output.
And do you mean by that like what do they call them, high input microphone? Or?
No, a condenser microphone is...
Oh, I know what you mean. Like in a recording studio.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's just my experience with the condenser mics that I have. I find I start at 50% on the gain. So if I know that I have 3 vocals, for instance, I'll set them all maybe right around here, and then I will, and then I'll adjust them accordingly. But that way, I know that I'm not going to be too loud and not too soft.
Now, the other side of the coin is that where would you start with your powered speakers on the gain? I've been starting pretty hot, like at 60 or 70%.
The question is, if you set your microphone up, I'm going to turn the phantom power off.
Okay.
Take this out. Set the microphone up so that check, test. Oh, let's see what's going on. Check. Oh, right input. Check. Check. Okay, good. 1, 2. Now, I'm not seeing anything here, which is a little odd. Check. Hold on a second.
See, it even happens to you.
Yeah.
Oh, you think it's the mic?
I know I'm getting something because if I do this, I can see
it's jumping up.
Okay. But what's surprising me is that this is up and this is on.
Yep.
And I'm not seeing a meter reading now. So I'm thinking to myself, here.
Yes.
Now it's going to work, okay? So this is your meter source. Theoretically, the sound will come out of these guys either way.
Right.
But if this is down, then you're metering this channel, not this channel. Okay? So for
Okay.
instance, if I put this group on, turned 1 and 2 on, and brought this up, now you'll see it there. Check, check, check. All right? So that's all that was. Now, interestingly, because the stereo is down, if I go to stereo now and turn the stereo off here, I'm still going to get signal here because now it's going from here to here to here, and we're monitoring this.
Okay.
Unless you're using your your group outs to run like a different pair of speakers or something. Mm-hmm. Sometimes, if you were doing a bigger system and you had subwoofers and you wanted to control what channels went through the subs, for instance, only the kick drum and the bass, because you don't want vocals going through subs because it sounds horrible. Mm-hmm. You could take any channel that's going to go to the sub, put it on the 1 and 2, turn this off. This now becomes your subwoofer level. Out these outputs to your subs, and this is your full range output.
Okay.
That's the only time that, for instance, I might have both of these down at the same time. Otherwise, it would be one or the other. So,
And usually it would be the red one in normal
yes,
function.
yes.
And the gray ones are left out
Yeah,
off.
and I just simply wouldn't use that.
Right. I'm all for that.
Yeah. So that looks all right. Everything seems to be what I would expect. You're probably always the only time I use the pan pots really is...
And what is a pan pot?
Okay, watch this. Now that I talk, I'm only in the left channel. See?
Okay.
If I go all the way to the right, I'm only in the right channel. In the middle, I'm both channels.
And that's where you'd like to have that?
For PA, for vocals,
yeah.
Yes. If you had instruments and you wanted the guitar to come out of the left speaker
Yes.
more than the right speaker, for
Yes.
instance, then you could pan it left a little like this, and you'll see that now it's a little hotter in the left than the right.
Interesting.
But usually for live sound, if you're not doing like a really high fidelity system or something like that, you're never going to pan anything. The only time in live sound that you're going to pan something is when you put a stereo source into here. And now this one, generally speaking, is a different control than these, in that the left and right are equal when it's in the middle. But it's actually going to 2 channels. So your left goes out the left channel, your right goes out the right channel, and it's equal with the pan pot in the middle. If you did this, what would happen would be you'd turn off your right channel, and you'd only be getting left channel out at this end. But I can't demonstrate that right now. So these two.
So that would be something like a tape deck or some
Yes,
other
yes.
thing that you might
Yeah.
plug in, which hardly anyone does anymore.
Right.
Because the speakers themselves are Bluetooth, so you can broadcast your phone into
Yeah.
your speaker directly and leave the board out.
Yeah.
So
On my mixer, because I don't have stereo channels on it, I actually take 2 line level inputs and I'll pan one left and pan one all the way right, and that's how I get my stereo out of the board. But you don't have that situation.
So basically, in everyday use, I'm going to have these red controls in the middle.
Straight up, yeah.
Straight up. Okay. Yeah. I never knew that at all. So I had no idea what that control even did. Great.
And then this aux1 is if you have your monitors connected to the aux1 output.
Yes.
This is your overall monitor loudness control.
Okay.
So you'll need to have that up, and I don't know, I usually end up with it around 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock.
So if I'm not doing that, I don't need to be concerned with it?
Correct. If you don't have stage monitors,
Well, we do have stage monitors, but what we usually do is run them out of one of the main outputs.
No.
I've been running.
You're much better off having
Okay.
them run off of the aux1 output. And the reason is that you can get your own mix, a separate mix for the monitors, because you don't need everything in the monitors.
Right.
You really only need the vocals in the monitors, and maybe like an acoustic guitar or something like that. But there's things that you don't want in the monitors, and also these controls now, if you raise and lower them, aren't going to make your monitors feedback.
Okay, I see what you're getting at. Now, so then you would need to use like something. Is this what you would use? Would you use one of these adapter cords if you were running an XLR out?
Yes, if you take the aux1 out, and then that would go to your stage monitor, powered stage monitors.
Okay, and then would you pigtail, if you had more than one monitor, would you pigtail them?
Or daisy chain them.
Daisy chain them.
If the monitors had a line out on them,
Yes.
and a line in, then you could do that.
That's
yes.
what my speakers
Yes,
have.
yeah.
They have two actual line outs.
Oh, okay.
So I guess you
Yes.
could run two.
The only thing that you have to do then is you have to go from monitor to monitor and make sure that they all come out at the same level. With the same signal going in.
Okay. Interesting. So there's something else I've been scared to do that Nick likes to do, but I'm scared of.
No, you should definitely do that. It's to your advantage.
Okay. Excellent. So this will be the control for the monitors then?
Yep.
Okay.
And that way you can just set them and probably forget them for the whole night. But you may find that, and then you just, if you want it through the monitors, you bring it up on one of the aux1 pots.
Okay, so in other words, if you wanted to raise the level in the monitor, then these would be the controls you'd use.
Yeah, here.
Oh, I'm sorry, here.
aux1.
aux1.
And then if you had some kind of effects unit, you could use the aux2s for effects. You can't really use them for monitors because you don't have a pre-post switch on them.
So if we wanted to add reverb to the vocals, how would we do that? Would we do that with
the aux2?
And would you plug another mixer in?
No, you wouldn't use another mixer. You'd have to use like an effects box of some sort.
Okay.
An echo unit.
That seems to be the biggest weakness of this board, that
it doesn't have built-in effects.
It doesn't have built-in effects.
Yeah.
And we tried last time out to run an MG8 that Nick has, a smaller Yamaha mixer that does have effects into this, and we encountered some problems.
Yeah, I mean, if you were to run another mixer into this, you would connect it maybe through like one of these pairs of inputs.
Okay.
They are unfortunately unbalanced, but that's not a big deal. The other thing, you could theoretically, if you wanted to, just use the effects part of that mixer by taking your aux2 out, going into a line input on the other mixer, turning your effects up all the way. If you're lucky, the other mixer has an effects out. It probably doesn't. But turning up your effects all the way and then bringing it back in through one of these inputs, making sure that this doesn't get turned up because that will cause feedback, though sometimes that's a useful feature with echo. You can make the echo really strong by adding a little bit of feedback to it. The problem there is that you may find that because it's mixing, well, if you can do, so that's where you get in trouble.
Let's not get into trouble.
Okay. The problem there is that
if I get,
you use a mixer like that, you're going to get some dry plus echo, and so when you turn up your echo, you're getting more dry signal and echo at the same time, and that makes a mess out of everything.
I think someday I'm going to have to get a mixer with effects. But I'm trying to put that day off. You know what I mean?
I understand that.
and see what happens. But okay, that's pretty good. And what else do we need to know?
It's useful to have a pair of headphones because you can put them in here, and then you can actually listen with the pre-fader listen to each channel, and then it comes up on your headphones level here.
And where do you leave do you leave the headphone level off when in use? Is that what you do?
Pretty much.
Controls like that should be off, basically.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't really matter.
Right.
If you have headphones plugged in and you have it turned up way far, you might damage your headphones.
Or your ears.
Well, if the headphones are off of your ears,
Yeah.
then you won't know that you're damaging them. But, and that's about it.
Great. Well, this has been great, Frank. I really appreciate this, and I'm probably going to make a private YouTube video for Nick and I to refer to, you know.
Fine.
I'm not going to put it out on Facebook or anything. It would be pretty dry viewing, though, for
Yes,
most
yes.
people.
If you, do you know Sandy Summer, the drummer?
No.
She's actually a really good drummer.
Sandy Summer, that's
Sandy
a great
Summer.
name for Cape Cod.
She lives on the Cape on a boat in the summer, and she's with a band called Straight Jacket Slumber Party.
I've heard of them.
They're actually very good. Anyway, she had a mixer, and she was having the exact same problems that you were having. Mm-hmm. And I found a YouTube video where somebody explained the whole mixer just the way I did this for you.
Wow.
And I sent it to her, and it helped her greatly. So,
Wow. Well, this has been great because some of these things like the pan knob, I've overlooked it because I just don't know what it does, you know. And I guess now we want to keep it in the 12 o'clock position.
Right.
And that's terrific. Just knowing these little things is going to help a lot when we have mysterious problems and you start getting frantic and trying every knob.
The problem is that with all the mixers nowadays is that the switches they use are so small, and the indicators, you're lucky you've got a little white stripe on these buttons. So you can if you look at the side, you can see whether they're in or out, for instance.
Yes. Yes.
My mixer doesn't have that, so I got to really look at them or press them in order to determine
Find out if
out.
they're in or out. Interesting.
And unfortunately, the switches they use aren't very good, so sometimes you have to cycle them a couple of times to get them to make a good clean
contact
connection. Yes.
Interesting.
I think out here on the Cape, that's a bigger problem than elsewhere because of the salt air.
Very good. Well, this has been great. I really appreciate all the help, and I'm sure I'll be back with more questions later, but this may solve some of the problems we're having. And so to go to the monitors, you would just use this one output, this auxiliary one, and you would go out to your monitors, and then you could daisy chain them from there?
Yes.
Okay.
Assuming they daisy chain. Otherwise, you need Y cables.
No, I can daisy chain, I think, pretty well. And the last speaker on the daisy chain doesn't need the daisy chain.
Correct.
So
yes.
Leslie has a small monitor.
It's not like RF or something where you need to terminate the last connection.
Okay, good. Cool. Well, thank you very much, Frank, and this is great. All right.
Okay.
Signing off.